going on to all my movie fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new Netflix movie review, and today we'll be discussing the new satirical sci-fi comedy by the name of Don't Look Up, a film that has an amazing cast, a director I'm a fan of. Is it worth checking out on Netflix? Well, we're going to break it all down here in this spoiler-free review, but before we do so, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, we'll consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, and as you can see on the screen now, if you enjoyed this review, we'll make sure to like and share the review. But more importantly, once you've seen this movie, let's talk about it. Share with me your pros, your cons, your favorite moment, your favorite character in this crazy good cast. What were some things that didn't work for you all? Were you disappointed by it? And also, since we're talking Adam McKay, if you've seen enough of his movies, what's your favorite film of his? Let's talk about that in the comments below. So let's start off this review, starting off my pros. I want to talk about the director and co-writer Adam McKay, who I'm a fan of his work. Now, looking at his career from early 90s, being a head writer of Saturday Night Live, transitioning into some of my favorite comedies in 2000s, whether it be Anchorman, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, him making the transition into more serious dramas such as Vice and The Big Short. And if you all do not know, he is the executive producer of one of the best shows on TV in Succession. I like his work, but what I like about Adam McKay, and I think it's highlighted pretty well in this film, he's one of those few directors and writers that can handle comedy and seriousness, right? And drama in particular. And we've seen this narrative 1,000 times, right? Whether it be Armageddon, Deep Impact, and we normally see it in the perspective of astronauts going into space, trying to save the world, but we don't really see the ground level. And I like how Adam puts a mirror in front of the audience. Now, it can be very heavy-handed at points. There is a message that is very heavy-handed in this film, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for the most part, I think it's a good balance. You look at the narrative here, you have two low-level astronomers played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence who see this comet coming to Earth, and just seeing them trying to tell the Madam President, played by Meryl Streep, trying to tell the government officials, we need to make a plan or else we're going to see the end of days. It was really well woven in regards, again, just seeing how, look at today's society. We are literally living in a time now where there has been so many F-ups in how this situation that we've been in has been handled, and then just tying in how the media plays into this, how misinformation can affect things, how social media puts a spin on things, and how celebrity gossip can be more important than climate change. In this film, they highlight that by Ariana Grande and Kid Cudi having a breakup, and that's like headlines versus the world coming to an end. So again, Adam McKay, this isn't his best directing job. This isn't his most, well-written script, but I thought for the most part, he did a good job in telling the narrative, directing these incredible actors, and I enjoyed it for the most part in regards to what he had to say. But going into these performances, starting off with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, who again play these low-level astronomers. I want to talk about Leo, who is arguably the best actor working in Hollywood and maybe one of the greatest of all time. He is, I think, the only character that has like a legitimate arc in this film, because we meet Randall at the beginning of the movie, very timid, very soft-spoken. He hates to be in the center of attention, and as him and Jennifer Lawrence are making their way to the media to let them know the truth, you're seeing him breaking out of his shell, and you see him kind of get his 15 minutes of fame, and he actually gets kind of corrupted in this movie. And then when you see where he lands at the end of the film, it has some heart. It has a good emotional beat. So again, Leo's great. I don't think that this cast does a good job. I don't think anyone blows me out of the water with the performances, but I thought Leo was great. Jennifer Lawrence, who is, to me, she didn't have the most arc in the film. She was pretty much the same character from the beginning to the end. But I will say, I like Jennifer Lawrence. I think outside of when we see her on screen, I think she's pretty funny. I've seen her on SNL. I've seen her on social media. She has a pretty good sense of humor. And I thought there were multiple times in this film where she's the one character in this movie who's shouting at the top of her lungs, trying to say, world, what the hell are we doing? We need to make a plan. She has some really good beats. I think of her in the back and forth she has with Jonah Hill in this film, who plays Jason, who is the chief of officer of the White House. I thought their back and forth was hilarious. And there's this recurring funny moment where she keeps getting picked up by the FBI and they do something to her. I thought that was funny. So again, Jennifer Lawrence wasn't my favorite character, but I did have a good time with her. But I would say out of this entire cast, I think Jonah Hill is the standout to me. Now, comedy is very subjective, and I thought that most of the comedy landed. I wasn't dying laughing in this film, but I had some really good laughs, and when it came to the good laughs, it came from that character, Jason. He is so funny in this film. Again, he plays a chief officer. He is a very millennial type of character who is very more concerned about the cool things in life than saving the people of the world. So I thought that he was funny. His back and forth with his mom, who's played by the GOAT, Meryl Streep. I thought she's the GOAT. She was great in this film. And again, whether it be your cameos by Kid Cudi, Ariana Grande, whether it be Timothée Chalamet, who comes in the film a lot later than I was expected, I thought that he was funny. Rob Morgan's great. Tyler Perry doesn't have much to do, but I thought that he was fine. Cate Blanchett, I love her so much. She plays Brie, and her chemistry with Leo was great. So again, it wasn't that anyone like blew me on the wall, like, oh, give this person a nomination for an Oscar, but I thought everyone knew the assignment. And again, Jonah Hill, very funny. And speaking of Jonah Hill, this film kind of reminds me of what if This Is the End was a movie in the universe of Mother, who Jennifer Lawrence is in that film, which I'm not a fan of Mother, but I think that this film has a lot of similarities to those two movies, which kind of brings me to, again, the story at hand. It is very heavy-handed, but I do like how Adam McKay does show us, like, listen, world, this is what it looks like when stuff hits the fan and we don't take stuff serious enough, right? This is what happens when government officials have their greed in front of them, their pride, their political agenda. This is what happens when social media gets a hold of something and all the different stories that go out there. So I do think at the end of the day, the story and the themes that the film tackles, when it focuses on that, that's when the film's at its absolute best. But let's go over to my criticisms. I mentioned the film Mother. The thing I didn't like about Mother, it was very heavy-handed. It was very artsy in the way. Again, I'm not talking about Mother in this review. This isn't a Mother review. But what I didn't like about that film is what I didn't like about this film. I feel like it was just, there were many points in this movie. Number one, this is a almost 2 hour and 20-minute film, way too long. I mentioned how Adam McKay was an SNL head writer. This felt like an SNL skit that ran way too long in its funny moments. And again, comedy is very subjective. But sometimes I thought the jokes just went too long. I didn't feel like, again, besides Leonardo DiCaprio, none of the characters really developed into anything besides when we get to the end. There is an intimate moment that I enjoy, but I didn't feel like none of the characters felt like actual characters. They felt like skits. They felt like, just like a goofy type of people and not really like real life people. There is a real life circumstance that we see in this film, but a lot of times those longer takes, those over the top moments kind of took me out of the film. So I thought that the film was definitely way over Welcome to Stay, and it kind of lost focus throughout the film. Again, I don't know why this is almost 2 hours and 20 minutes, because I feel like in an hour and a half or maybe an hour and 45, the same goal could have been accomplished by chopping off so many of unnecessary scenes, unnecessary dialogue, and some of the comedic beats were just completely unnecessary. And I thought, again, there were some characters that I didn't even think needed to be in the film. So, again, I feel like Adam McKay lost focus. I mentioned how I don't think this is his best directing job, and I think from a directing standpoint, creatively speaking, there were some really weird editing choices. There was some choppiness in the way that they told the narrative. There were some pacing issues. So I was kind of really disappointed by how the film was handled in telling this really interesting narrative, but being chopped up by some bad directing choices and some bad editing choices. So I would say disappointed by how the narrative was told and how it was handled for the most part. But hey, before I give you all my overall thoughts, those are my pros, my cons. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and comment below and leave your thoughts in the comment section. Overall, I'd have to say that Don't Look Up kept me engaged for the most part. I did mention how there are some really solid performances. No one really stood out to me besides the Jonah Hill character. Most of the comedy beats work. The narrative, when focused, does hit the landing, but I do think sometimes it got convoluted by the jokes and just an unnecessary long runtime. But at the end of the day, this is a film I would recommend you all give a watch when it becomes available on Netflix later this weekend. With all that being said, I'm going to give Don't Look Up a 3 out of 5. I know this film came out in theaters a couple weeks ago, and I know people were raving about it. It didn't hit me like that, but I do think it is something to check out. And when you do, let me know your thoughts, pros, cons, your favorite moments, your favorite characters. What were some things that didn't work for you all? Let's talk about that in the comments below. If you stuck around to this point in the review, I appreciate you all. Before you leave, again, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my future reviews. Hope you all are staying safe. Hope you enjoyed this review. We'll see you on the next one. As you can see on the screen now, subscribe, check out my content. You all be safe out there.